for us, for example, we are now the largest gold and silver resource endowment in the Great Basin. And the Great Basin is a geological province that covers southern Idaho, western Utah, pretty much all of Nevada, and eastern California. If it was a country, it would be the 5th largest gold producer in the world.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for July 15th through July 22nd, 2024, while supplies last. First, we feature backdated 1-ounce gold Canadian maples at the lowest price in years, at just $65 over spot. Next, we have backdated gold 1/10-ounce Eagles at $39 over melt per coin. We also have 2024 1-ounce Silver Britannia at $3.29 over spot. And finally, we're offering Dealer's Choice Constitutional Silver half dollars at $2.50 over spot. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you. Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're always delighted to have returning guests. And in this case, Jason Kosec, the president and CEO of Integra Resources, represents a company you've heard about before because we've talked to them here at the Rural Symposium on Natural Resource Investing in Boca Raton, Florida last year. They're back again here to tell us more about the value proposition that the company is unlocking for investors. And Jason, thank you for coming on Liberty and Finance.
Thank you very much for having me on.
I was able to attend a talk you gave yesterday morning at the conference about that spread that exists right now in the value potential that Integra Resources represents versus what the market has realized and what you're doing to close that spread. So before we get to that, one of the things we wanted to make sure and update our viewers and subscribers on, because they know Rick Rule extremely well. He joins us every 3 or 4 weeks on our channel. He talks to us about macro principles and philosophies of being a contrarian investor, et cetera, et cetera. But he also handpicks the companies that are here at the symposium, including Integra Resources, for very specific reasons. One of which he has talked to us about is seeing management teams that are serially successful. And he talks about if you give good rocks to the wrong people, they won't unlock value. If you give even bad rocks or even decent rocks to good people, they'll find a way to unlock value for their shareholders. So could you first tell us, and all of us, and educate me and our viewers on what is it about the Integra Resources leadership team that would have checked off the box from Rick Rule's diligence on that he does, because he examines and scrutinizes companies on every angle, and that's one that's extremely important.
Yeah, no, for sure. First, we had him at site for 3 days about 2 weeks ago, so he was quite thrilled with all of our executive team and the project. So we'll be hosting a bunch of his retail shareholders to site to understand the size and scalability of these things. You know, our management team, this isn't our first rodeo. We've done this 4 times in the last 15 years. We've delivered over $2.5 billion to our shareholders. Some of those examples are, first one was Trelawney, which is Côté Gold. It is now the 3rd largest gold deposit in Canada. So from conceptual idea to the sale of a $624 million project to IAMGOLD. Then Integra 1.0, which George and his team did. It was basically a conceptual idea of the Lamaque project, sold to Eldorado for about $650 million. And most recently with myself and the other side of the team was the Caribou Gold project, which we sold to Osisko for $325 million-ish. So what our team really specializes in is using our geological and engineering skill set to go into these brownfield camps and really redo the geology, redo the engineering to extract value for shareholders. So, you know, we've done it 4 times and delivered over $2.5 billion to our shareholders. So, you know, not our first time doing this. And that's really why Rick and a lot of our other shareholders are very supportive of what we're doing.
It may not be obvious, it wasn't to me until you explained it yesterday morning, that you're a structural geologist, and we could all get buried in the details of how you go about making sure that you're unlocking the actual physical resource value that's latent at these brownfield sites where you're reinvigorating previously explored or previously developed sites and finding more value there. Now, you mentioned along the way, you said you've done this for shareholders. You've got some significant shareholders, and sometimes you can tell a person or a company by the company they keep. And those who have done diligence, just as Rick Rule has, what other major shareholders are already opting into the future of Integra Resources?
Yeah, so first and foremost, our largest shareholder is Wheaton Precious Metals. They own just shy of 10% of the company. So if you don't believe our technical due diligence, you can believe the largest gold royalty and streaming company in the world, because they do a lot of technical due diligence, not just on the deposit scale, but also on permitting and community and our social license to operate, basically. So they do extensive work. Our other large shareholder is BD Capital, so billionaire family office out of Vancouver. They're primarily real estate, but they do a lot of project financing for mining companies, Ascot, Artemis, Atlantic Gold, just to name a few. So the idea is to bring in those shareholders who are going to be part of the project financing early on to get them comfortable with the asset, so that it removes project financing risk when we build it. 40% of our shareholders are major institutions. Okay, so from the likes of Franklin Templeton, Merck, Vescor, Equinox, Extract, some of the biggest, long-only gold funds in the space in the U.S. Myself and George are the largest individual shareholders. I've put over $1.7 million of my own money. For someone who's 36, it's a significant chunk of my cash for sure. And then, pretty tight flow with 40% in retail. Company's got 18 million in the bank and very supportive share structure.
Rick has also talked to us when we've talked about if people want to just dip their toe into investing in natural resources, because some people have never done that. They've done more what the typical public has done and invested into general ETFs or market indexes and things like that. But to start dipping their toe into natural resource investing, he said, look, if you just want to get started easy, get Wheaton Precious Metals, because royalty and streaming companies, enjoy some benefits that are not shared in terms of inflation protection versus what's exposed to mining operating companies, that sort of thing. But Wheaton Precious has ones who typically do extremely thorough due diligence. So it's corroborating to hear you say that they did that diligence and have decided to pick up a major share of Integra Resources. So, following the leader is sometimes a good way to be in good company. Now, you've talked about why now is what always comes to the mind of our subscribers and our viewers is right now. You mentioned that you're doing a lot of work as a company to prove out additional value in the assets, the fields, the mines, the projects that you already have, so that you can close that gap between where the market is currently assigning a value to your company versus where you believe the real value lies. And when that gap gets closed, when that spread gets closed, then investors who have gotten on board before that will benefit. So what kind of vectors of either answering unanswered questions, is the way Rick always puts it, or proving out additional value are you doing? How are you attacking that to close that gap?
So the biggest thing to close the valuation gap, right now we're a $90 million US company with $1 billion of net asset value sitting behind us. Okay. That's at 2,000. So if you run it at 2,350, the number is. So
you're saying at $2,000 per ounce of gold, your assets are worth
$1 billion.
And with the current gold price or potential gold prices on the rise in a bull market, that's only upward from there. So
yes, it's substantially higher. Unfortunately, I can't quote those numbers because the sensitivity table in our technical documents only goes to 2,000. So to close the gap from 90 to $1 billion, what we'll be doing to do that is one that just moved. So you're going up the other side of the Lassonde curve. One, the mine plan of operations just got deemed complete. Okay. So that gave us a bump. The next bump will be the feasibility that'll come out in Q4. And the next bump will be the notice of intent being signed at the federal level, and then fully permitted in 26 for the Delamar project. But right now you're trading at 10 cents on the dollar. I like to say that the train's leaving the station, and fully permitted projects trade at 0.6 to 0.8. So the gap is, and then once you're in production and everything goes smoothly, you'll close it even further.
So just from the layman's perspective, people who, assuming that you are able to go ahead and execute on this roughly 2+ year timeline that you're talking about to getting through these steps that you just outlined, could anticipate on the upside that they may be looking at 6, 8, or plus more than that fold increase in their share value, just because the value is there. It just hasn't been realized yet by the market and these steps that are standing ahead of you. What major hurdles stand in the way? Because some projects have to overcome significant headwinds as far as jurisdictional restrictions or permitting or technical risk or financial risk. What are the main headwinds that Integra is having to get past or demonstrate that you can overcome in order to achieve and realize that value?
Yeah, I think the feasibility is the first major one, and that's why you get a re-rate off the feasibility. That's the permitting. That's why we got a little bit of a bump once the mine plan of operations is deemed complete. Permitting is always challenging. Okay, I can tell you that. And if anyone's telling you it's not, they're lying to you, frankly. And, building a mine is not easy. Luckily for us, we've done it a few times. And, head of our technical team is Eric Tremblay, who built Canadian Malartic, Canada's largest gold mine, on time and under budget. Scott Olson, who ran Bald Mountain for Kinross and Barrick for 17 years, VP of Processing Engineering, and Raphael Duteau, who's a PhD in geostatistics and resource optimization. So he does strategic mine planning for us. He ran Rosabelle and Essakane for IAMGOLD. So luckily for us, we have the team who has done this, multiple times. The other thing, we could touch on is that there's a ton of exploration that has not even been touched. So right now, the valuation's, backstopped by $1 billion of net asset value, and we'll only close that gap. But all the exploration stuff that we really haven't touched on is something that shareholders get for free.
So how extensive is the territory that you're going to be potentially exploring going forward, in addition to the assets that you already have documented? So
our Nevada project, Nevada North, the way permits work in the U.S. is you have a notice of intent, which gives you 5 acres of disturbance. So to build drill roads and build pads, it chews up 5 acres quite quickly. The land package is 23,000 acres. Okay. So we're going from 5 acres to 400 acres of disturbance. So we can now properly explore the true size potential of what our Nevada project has to offer. Again, I'm a technical person, so I am not a promoter, but an easy 50% increase is completely obtainable. Every 10% you grow the resources, an extra $46.5 million in after-tax free cash flow. So the exploration can have a really positive impact on the economics. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. Drills are turning right now, and it will happen over the next kind of 6 to 18 months. And that's how we deliver value to shareholders. And that's something that's not baked into the $1 billion of evaluation right now. And like I said, that's something shareholders, if they come in now, they get free.
Yeah, that's above and beyond anything we've talked about up to now. Now, another thing, our subscribers and viewers tend to be rather risk averse. They like to know what they really can count on, that sort of thing. One of the angles of risk that has presented itself, especially in the past half decade or so around the world, is jurisdictional risk due to government interventions in either whether it's private property rights or banking or whatever. How is you mentioned a Nevada project, how are the jurisdictional support as far as being mining friendly, conducive to business, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so along the lines of what we do is go into these brownfields camps that have significant resource endowment. So, for us, for example, we are now the largest gold and silver resource endowment in the Great Basin. And the Great Basin is a geological province that covers southern Idaho, western Utah, pretty much all of Nevada, and eastern California. If it was a country, it would be the 5th largest gold producer in the world. Nevada is ranked number 1 by the Fraser Institute, best mining jurisdiction in the world. Okay. Idaho is not far behind that. As you may know, is that 50% of the reason why mines don't go into production is not because of an economic issue. It's a geopolitical or social issue. So operating in tier 1 jurisdictions like Nevada being one and Idaho being right behind that, we remove that risk. I've worked in West Africa and throughout Latin America, and hats off to people that go in there, but I prefer to be in the U.S. where we can order a pizza to site if we wanted to.
Yeah, well, even having fundamental infrastructure available, whether that's roads, power, et cetera, is a daunting hurdle to many of the more remote projects in the world. So this is encouraging, especially when you're reinvigorating a brownfield site that has previously been developed, and a lot of those things, either whether it's rail or road or power or whatever, are either at hand or close by in most cases. So that's good. If people want to specifically find out more from the horse's mouth about Integra Resources and keep up to date on their progress, where should they get connected in?
Yeah, you can go to our website, integraresources.com. You can find me on co.ca. ITR13 is my handle. My email and phone number are on the company website, so I will take calls from anyone. We're happy to host people at site, and we're excited to further along the project.
Well, Jason, thank you on behalf of all of our viewers and subscribers here at Liberty and Finance for joining us for this update.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for everyone for joining.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for July 15th through July 22nd, 2024, while supplies last. First, we feature backdated 1-ounce gold Canadian maples at the lowest price in years at just $65 over spot. Next, we have backdated gold 1/10-ounce Eagles at $39 over melt per coin. We also have 2024 1-ounce Silver Britannia at $3.29 over spot. And finally, we're offering Dealer's Choice Constitutional Silver half dollars at $2.50 over spot. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.